Is there a difference between self-defense with the different types of weapons? So I would imagine the laws are pretty much the same, even if it's like a gun, a knife, in terms of it's still reasonable doubt or sorry, not reasonable doubt.
The law doesn't really care what weapon you use. It cares a lot about the amount of force you're using. So the law of self-defense puts force into two buckets. There's non-deadly force, force not likely to cause death or serious bodily injury, and there's deadly force, which means more than death that can kill you. It means force that can cause death or serious bodily injury. So a maiming injury, a broken bone, that's deadly force, even if you would never have died from it. So once you're in the deadly force bucket, you're being threatened with deadly force and you're using deadly force in self-defense, the law doesn't care how you do that. It could be using a knife. It could be using a gun. It could be running someone over with your car. It could be something from the Wile E. Coyote cartoons where you drop a piano from a great height onto their head. It doesn't really matter. The law cares a lot about whether the conditions for deadly force have been met, but it doesn't really care a lot about what form the deadly force takes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But a gun's a lot more efficient than using a knife or a piano from a great height.
Well, I'm in London, or I would not anymore, but I was in London, so it was all stabbings there.
Yeah, right.
I was more. It would be weird because in America, it's all
guns.
Yeah, guns. Right. But there you would hear about people getting stabbed with like a machete.
Yeah, right.
And just personally, I'd rather get shot than stabbed if I have to go.
Yeah, I can tell you from personal experience that gunshots are way easier than bladed injuries. Sharp blades create unbelievably grievous injuries. You get shot, 80% of people in America who are shot with a handgun survive. Which actually tells us another lesson, which is that if anyone's thinking they're going to point a gun at a bad guy and the bad guy's just going to run away, that happens a lot, but it's not guaranteed. A lot of bad guys out there, they've been shot. They're that 80% that's been shot before and survived. They're still bad guys. They're still on the street. They're not all that scared of your gun. They've been shot before, and they're still here doing bad guy stuff. So you really have to be prepared. If that gun comes out, you have to be prepared to use that gun. It doesn't mean you have to use the gun. Maybe they will run away, and then you don't need to shoot them. That would be nice. That would be a good outcome. But you need to be prepared to use it.
What do you mean by prepared? Like you have to know how to shoot, or
you have to be willing to use the gun.
Oh, you can't be scared to pull the trigger because they'll sense that.
They'll know for sure.
Yeah, because
most police officers who are shot with their own guns.
No way.
Yep. The bad guy takes the gun off the cop and shoots him with his own gun.
How does that happen? Is it just because they hesitate?
It's because it's very easy to take a gun off of somebody. It's shockingly easy.
Really?
Yep. For one thing, the grip on a gun is generally shorter than the length of the slide. So if you're holding the grip, you have a short lever, and if they grab the slide, they have a long lever. They have more leverage than you do.
So if someone's coming like to grab it, you just have to shoot them like right away.
As far as I'm concerned, if they're grabbing for your gun, it's no different than they were reaching for a gun on a table.
Yeah.
In fact, it's worse because if they're reaching for a gun on the table, they're reaching for a gun, but you still have yours. If they grab your gun, they're arming themselves and disarming you at the same time. I've seen in prison surveillance video of prisoners practicing with each other how to strip guns away. So they're training. Are you training?
No.
Not you, but
No.
I mean, if anyone out there is carrying a gun and hasn't taken a class in weapons retention, how to mitigate the risk of having the gun taken, they're doing it wrong.
What do you think's the worst case you've seen in the media? Where would you? Because for me, it'd be Derek Chauvin. Would that be the worst one you've seen in terms of like innocent guy getting put in jail?
No, because I see a lot of bad ones. There was one recently. I believe the officer's name was Aaron Dean. Police officer, he's called to a house in the middle of the night. Burglary in progress. It's the winter. All the doors are open in the house, so it looks like it's been ransacked. He shows up there, and the first thing he's been trained to do is first search the outside of the house, make sure there's not people lurking. So he's walking around the outside of the house with his flashlight. He peers into a window of the house, and on the other side of the window, someone's pointing a gun at him. So he has his own gun in his hand because he's looking for a burglar, and he shoots. It turns out the person inside the house was the resident of the house. It was a young black woman who lived in the house. She probably thought it was the burglar, a burglar outside the house, right? That she was pointing the gun at. And this is a classic example of a shooting, I would say, was awful, but lawful, right? She didn't need to die. She wasn't doing anything criminal. But did he have a reasonable perception based on the information he knew that he was facing an imminent, unlawful, deadly force threat? He did. And he got convicted. And I think that was a horribly unjust conviction.
Oh, he went to jail?
Yeah, he's in jail right now.
No.
Another case just happened very recently.
Before you go, was there a robber in that one?
No.
Oh, there wasn't even
No.
So she just thought there was and there wasn't.
He was searching around the outside of the house. She probably heard him walking around outside. It's 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. So she probably thought, holy cow, there's somebody sneaking around outside my house.
But she wasn't the one who called the cops? Because she was...
No, the neighbors across the street called the cops because they called. They said, hey, we're looking at our neighbor's house. All the windows and doors are open. We think there's a burglary going on. Can you send a cop to check it out?
She just
Because it's the middle of winter at 2 a.m. and the doors are open.
Why were they open?
I don't think we ever knew, actually.
Maybe she's smoking weed or something.
Well, who knows? You know,
that's the
people
only
like
reason
to
I
smoke
could.
funny things.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the only reason I could think of.
Or maybe they burned something in the kitchen. They opened up the doors and then they fell asleep or passed out or whatever and forgot the doors were open. Who knows? There was another case recently, just this year in Wisconsin, the Apple River stabbing case. Nikolai Mew was 50-ish, fat, quadruple bypass, heart patient, floating on the river with his wife and some friends. One of his friends lost their cell phone in a little floaty bag, so he wandered around looking for it. Got into close proximity of some very drunk and high school boys who started taunting him. The taunting turned into a fight. They were beating him into the river, 13-1. And when he came out of the river, he came out with a pocket knife. And basically, they threw themselves onto his knife. He stabbed, I think it was 3 people, one of them fatally. He didn't stab anyone who wasn't attacking him, but he was brought to trial and he was convicted. And I think that was a completely unjust conviction. I think he had more than a reasonable perception that he was facing an unlawful, deadly force fight, that he was going to die in that river if he didn't take out that knife and defend himself. But nevertheless, he's convicted. He's going to spend the rest of his life in prison.
Was it on camera? What was his name?
It was. It was caught because the tubers all had their phones out.
What was his name?
I believe it's Nikolai. If you Google Apple River stabbing, that would probably be the best.
I don't want to see
He's Romanian, so his name has an odd spelling.
River stabbing. Okay, they can't see it.
So that's him.
This is
They're
the
yelling
guy.
at him.
Okay.
They're gonna, in a moment, he's gonna get punched. So he's looking for his friend's cell phone.
But why were they attacking him?
They were all drunk and they were just making fun of him like teenage boys will do. They were acting like a little Lord of the Flies gang.
Oh.
He starts walking away from them here, but he's downriver, so everything's floating towards him. So they catch up. They're calling him a child predator. They're shouting all kinds of insults at him. And he's not doing anything offensive here. They're screaming, yelling. And right about now, he's going to get punched. A girl is going to come up and yell at him. Right there.
For what are they yelling at him for?
They're all drunk.
Yeah, but
and he's
like, I've been drunk before and I've never, like, for what?
Well, the others have been calling him a child predator. She may think he's a child predator. She's telling him, get away from these kids.
Oh, because he's just kind of not an attractive guy.
Yeah.
And so they're just kind of bullying. That's kind of
a stranger.
Yeah.
Not part of their group. And that woman comes up and screams in his face again. He puts his hand up, like to right there, maintain distance. And one of the guys takes offense and punches him into the water. He's surrounded 13-1 here.
Wow.
Imagine the chaos. All these people screaming like, there he goes. He's in the water. Kicked him. He's face down. They're pushing him down. And now he's got the knife in his hand. He doesn't pursue anyone. The only people who get stabbed are the people who come to him. And at this point in the video, they realize that people are bleeding and they all start screaming, how could this have happened? Like they weren't involved.
I can't believe Wow. That's insane. So they all attacked him and he went to jail?
Yep. Prison. He's convicted.
What was his name? I want to get the... Because I think...
Nikolai Mew. I believe his last name is M-I-U.
Or Riverstep. Because I think... What I think I saw was him crying. Like he was...
At trial.
Was he saying sorry to them or something?
Yeah, I believe this was a sentencing, so...
Wow, he lost a ton of weight.
He lost a ton of weight. Yep.
Wow.
You know, his wife divorced him.
His wife, they always leave.
No, this is why. Because they knew they were going to get sued. So they divorced. They agreed to divorce so she could protect some assets.
Oh.
And she testified at trial. And the defense lawyer says, did you love your husband that day on the river? She said, yes. Do you still love your husband? Yes, I do.
Did they protect any of their assets?
I don't know.
Or no?
I didn't follow it.
How did the teenagers, the ones that were watching, did they all take whose side? I'm assuming they took their friends.
They took their friend's side, right?
Yeah.
So one of their friends died. So now this is a mission to avenge their friend.
Oh. So one person died or more?
Yeah. One got disemboweled in the river. He lived, believe it or not.
He looks like a different person. Wow. The system really, if it gets politicized, that seems to be like the kiss of death, is when politics become involved.
Well, it certainly means you're in a fight for your life. So it doesn't mean you'll be convicted. Zimmerman wasn't convicted. Rittenhouse wasn't convicted. But it certainly ups the stakes. And you're definitely going to trial. So it's very common in a killing case where a self-defender has been charged with murder or manslaughter to spend in excess of $200,000 before you even get to trial. And then it just goes up from there.
But if they don't have the money, where does it come from?
You get a public defender.
And those guys are really overworked, right?
They're overworked is the fair way to put it. They get a bad reputation, like they're bad lawyers. They're not bad lawyers. In fact, I would advise anyone who's thinking about going into the law, if you want trial experience, become a public defender. You'll get more trial experience there than anywhere else in the world. If you join a private firm, you won't see the inside of a courtroom for years. If you're a public defender, you'll be in a courtroom all day, every day of the week. Often they're the best lawyers, but they are way overworked. Instead of having one client or 5 clients at a time, they have 50 or 100. It's unmanageable.
And so I'm guessing more people can be put in jail like unjustly then because they're overworked. That's part of the process. They just don't have the time.
So, a trial is a war. It's a battle. And just like any other war, how many resources you can bring to the fight matters, right? If you had 2 nations and one of them had 1 million people and one of them had 100 million people, it's not hard to predict who's going to win.
Right. That's an interesting way.
By the way, the prosecutor knows this, right? The prosecutor can see whether or not you have a public defender or an expensive private lawyer. He knows how many resources you have.
Wow. It's so interesting because we grow up thinking that the justice system is fair. And I guess it's probably more fair than some parts of the world, I'd imagine.
I think it's the best system anywhere.
Yeah.
But it still has profound defects.
Yeah.
Because it's run by humans.
Right.